So when I think of the body, because I always look at it from design perspective. If you've ever heard me, any of my classes, I'm always looking at like how God designed the world, how God designed us. I always thought it was fascinating that the body is approximately 60 to 70% water, and the earth is approximately 60 to 70% water, right? That's an interesting correlation. And when we get talking about minerals, especially these ocean minerals, we're going to get to that, but it's fascinating that ocean water has almost the exact same composition of minerals as human blood. So I think that's interesting. I don't think that's by mistake. But what's important to understand about how God designed the body is we are mainly a fluid system. And I really believe in working with people with chronic health issues and things like that, that we have to fix the fluid systems. So what are the fluid systems? The fluid systems are your blood, but the fluid system is also your lymph, right? Those are fluid systems. That's how all toxins go in and out of the body. It's how all nutrients are delivered in and out of the body, is through the fluid systems of the body. And the best way to check the fluid systems would be through the blood, right? The life of all flesh is its blood. So the blood is a great way to determine kind of what's going on with people's health. There's multiple markers in blood work that can be related to dehydration and imbalances with the fluid systems of the body. So there's a little list here of what does water do for you. Again, some things are obvious, but it's kind of everything. It's regulates body temperature through sweating and breathing. It's a shock absorber for the brain and spinal cord. I thought that was interesting. It converts food, right? So we eat food, it's solid, but that food has to be broken down into a liquid form, right? To be delivered throughout the body, broken down by stomach acid, bile, enzymes, different things, to pass into the intestines to be absorbed as nutrients and then eliminated as waste. So the only way solid food brings nutrients through our body is by breaking it down into a liquid. So many things in how the body works is dependent upon how the fluid systems or the water systems of the body are working. And just like at home in your pipes, with your sinks and your sewage systems, it all comes down to how well those systems are working, or if they're clogged up, or they're congested, or they're backed up, or they're blocked up, or they get filled with toxins and waste. And that's primarily where it starts, is the fluid system. So think about like kidney stones, for example. Who here has known somebody who's had kidney stones, or you've had kidney stones? Okay, my wife went through kidney stones a couple years ago. She did have 3 children at home and never had an epidural. And she would rather have a baby at home with no epidural than have a kidney stone. So it's true what they say about how painful kidney stones are. But how does a solid crystal deposit like that form in the body, except that there is a problem, there is an imbalance in the fluid systems. And if the fluid systems would have stayed clear and functioning and flowing, that crystallized kidney stone never would have developed. And so in the same way it develops through acid waste buildup in the fluid systems, the same way you can dissolve it. So what did we do for her? We did basically we didn't go to the hospital. We did an all liquid diet. She was on juices. She specifically did apple cider vinegar. She did lemon juice. She did our kidney tea, which I've had a lot of people pass kidney stones doing our kidney detox tea. And yeah, it took a little hot packs, all the things. And she was able to pass those stones. And, praise God, she was able to pass the stones and work through it. And we didn't have to go to the emergency room or anything like that. So just, as an example of something related to something that can develop in the fluid systems that can be problematic. So lubricates joints, flushes waste out of the body, of course. I think the kidneys don't get enough attention. You don't hear people talk about the kidneys a lot. Like if you're talking about health, what do you hear about? You hear about colon and colon cleansing, and you hear about liver. Everybody's liver's got issues. Like how often are people talking about the kidneys? So it's kind of the world I live in, but I don't feel like the kidneys get enough appreciation or attention. We have a kidney cleanse, what I think is really awesome because I've seen that be transformational for people. I think it's next to the colon cleanse. I think it's probably our most popular cleanse and the one that's helped the most people. So for example, I mentioned the kidney stones. That would be a reason you might want to do a kidney cleanse. Another reason is high blood pressure. A lot of people have high blood pressure because of kidney problems. Doctors kind of know this, but I'm not sure how much they understand it. But if you put somebody on a pharmaceutical drug that's a diuretic, that means that there's a water problem, there's a fluid problem, there's a kidney problem. So instead of teaching you or helping you heal your kidneys, they just give you a drug that forces water out of your body so that that fluid doesn't build up. And people with have high blood pressure can take a diuretic and reduce their blood pressure with a drug, or you can work on the kidneys, right? And fix the fluid systems and not have high blood pressure anymore, which is something I've done with a lot of people because one of my main goals is always to get people off of drugs, off of pharmaceutical drugs, not be dependent on those drugs. And you have to fix the fluid systems to do that. So dehydration is the number one cause of afternoon fatigue. Believe that. A 1.5% drop in water can lead to dehydration, affecting focus, alertness, short-term memory, ability to do basic math calculations. So we all know hydration is important. I really want to talk more about the practicals of like how to get water, how to get hydrated, I should say, practical things that you can do. But before we get there, we have to talk about, again, something that might be obvious, but the fact that our water has toxins in it. Our water has poisons in it. So I don't know how many people drink tap water still these days. Now, I grew up, how do you think I grew up drinking water? Right out of the tap, right? I was a kid, so it was summertime and I was playing outside. Where did I drink water? Right out of the hose. I mean, who grew up drinking water out of the hose? Come on, right? So that was normal. When you learn these things, it's just kind of shocking how many toxins and poisons are in our tap water, how many pharmaceutical drugs are in tap water. They've studied it. Birth controls in tap water. Pain meds are in tap water. They actually find traces of these drugs in the tap water. Herbicides, pesticides, all these things get into the groundwater. So it's interesting because I can lab test these things, and I do urine tests on people to check for heavy metals, radioactive elements, different toxins in the water. And now I've been doing it so long, when I get a urine test back and the person has tons of metals and weird things in their urine, 95% of the time, it's one of two things. Number one, they're drinking well water. They're rural and they're drinking well water and they're like, I had our water tested and it's fine. Well, it's not fine. I've never found a source of well water that was actually clean. Now, you'd think it might be because it's so deep underground, right? You'd think it might not have all those herbicides and pesticides, but I don't know, I think our world's been polluted for so long, for well over 100 years, that I think clearly those contaminants are getting down there. But you're also, the deeper you go into the earth, the more heavy metals you're going to find as well. So I really feel like the well water is not good. And our standards for testing and things like that are just really poor too. Like, do you think they're testing for pharmaceutical drugs in the water? Like, they're not checking for those things. So that's number one. And then number two, it's really interesting, is the people with the most heavy metals and radioactive elements in their urine are usually from California. Just had one the other day where a gal had a whole bunch of toxins in her urine, a whole bunch of metals and stuff, and she lived in the LA area. So California, New York, New Jersey, and then there's an area called the Radium Belt. Anybody's heard of that? I have a map that's a radiation map that shows where the most radiation is contaminated in the water. It's like a US map. And there's a place in northern Illinois up into Wisconsin that's called the Radium Belt. And so those three areas, those are the worst areas for metals in the water and radioactive elements in the water. I've seen people who I had a guy who had 72 times the toxic level for uranium show up in his urine. 72 times the high level. So just crazy amounts. So there's some statistics here. 4 million chemicals are reported to be dumped into our land since 1965. Currently, because there's such a high load of chemicals on our planet, this is EPA, like Environmental Protection Agency, 1.5 trillion gallons of pollutants. Like who really measured that? Like, how do you figure out 1.5 trillion gallons? I don't know. But that's what they say. 1.5 trillion gallons of pollutant leak into the ground each year. That's insane. So lead, nitrates, and radon. Over 700 chemicals have been found in tap water, but only 200 of them are actually tested. So when they test for tap water, there's certain things that they test, but there's hundreds of other things that are in that tap water that never get tested. So like I said, there could be birth control in your tap water and you don't know because it's never been tested. You know, I'm sure that's not just one reason, but there's so many reasons. You know, our children are struggling and girls are going through puberty 4 or 5 years before they used to. You know, there's all kinds of issues with hormones and meat and in water and all kinds of things. So anyway, my point is tap water is bad for you. And well water, I think is probably going to be so all people out there who are in a rural area and I would be cautious of your well water. The guy, interesting story. I'll just share this real quick because it just popped in my brain. So Cellcore is a company that I really like. Their products are great. I know the guys who started the company, Dr. Todd, Dr. J. But Dr. J is a chiropractor. He's one of the main head guys in Cellcore. And his wife, who I know, I've actually been to their house in Puerto Rico. They're really neat people. And she had a bunch of health issues. And they tried all kinds of different things to help her and try to figure out what her issues were. And part of her story is that they never really thought about her water. And it was the water. I don't know if it was when they were living in Puerto Rico, so I don't want to get that part of the story wrong. I'm not honestly sure. But wherever they were living at the time, they stopped drinking their filtered water. They were drinking filtered water, and they started drinking distilled water, and that's when she got well. Yep. So her health issues, whatever she was struggling with for all those years, she finally got well when she drank distilled water. So the guys at Cellcore, if you go to like their conferences, which I go every year, I've been for like 5 straight years, they're really big on distilled water, which we're going to talk about. And then, scary stat here, you can absorb as many toxins in one shower as you would by drinking tap water for an entire week. So all those toxins that are in tap water, you're going to get through the shower. So we have a shower filter on our showers. And if we're going to take a bath, or we have 3 kids, so if our kids are going to take a bath, we actually run the water through the shower filter to fill up the bath. So it takes a lot longer, but it's worth it. So we just get it started, and we, come back and check it later and hope we don't forget and the tub overflows. We haven't done that, hasn't done it yet. But we would not want to take that chance. Yeah.
Makes a great humidifier.
Oh, sure does. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, especially in the winter, huh? All right, so what can I do? So the first one's drink more water, which is kind of funny because I wanted to. Okay, so let's talk about drink more water, right? So how much water should I drink? So see on the bottom there says, how much water should I drink? That depends on how much water you're eating. Eat your water. Okay, so one thing that's always kind of driven me a little bit crazy in the health world is just these groups of people out there who are like, you got to drink a gallon of water a day. You got to drink this much water a day or whatever. And so it's just not that simple, because what is actually a really crucial factor in how much water you should drink depends upon how much water you're eating. So like, let's say you lived in Hawaii, which we all wish we lived in Hawaii, right? My wife's born and raised in Hawaii. We love Hawaii. We get to go back once in a while. But if you were an islander in Hawaii and you were eating, what would you eat if you lived in Hawaii? Papaya? Pineapple? Mango? Coconut? Right? Imagine if you were eating coconut, drinking coconut water, eating pineapple, eating mango all day. Would you drink a gallon of water a day? I don't think so, right? And actually the best, most perfect form of structured water, if you've heard of structured water, God already did it in fruit. You're drinking structured water. I've had seasons. I do this a lot in the summer, and our family does, is of course in the summer, we tend to eat more fruits and vegetables, right? Whereas in the winter, we might eat more fats and protein and vegetables. So in the summer, I've had seasons where like I'm just eating fruits and vegetables all day long, eating salads, and you're not even really thinking about drinking water necessarily, because you might not be thirsty if you're getting plenty of water through your food. So I just think I wanted to make that point because I think that's an important factor, that you absolutely can get hydrated through eating fruits and vegetables, which is the majority of what we should ideally be eating anyway. So got to keep that in mind. So you don't want to just drink water. In fact, I think people can drink too much water. And I mean, I don't know who's done it. I've definitely heard of people doing it where they're like, yeah, I was doing this XYZ program or this cleanse, and it said to drink a water. Man, it was so tough drinking that gallon of water a day, but I did it, and it just, man, it was like so much water. I don't know how I did that. Like, it doesn't even really, like, it's not even logical necessarily. So anyway, so how much water you drink? Again, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I tell people drink water when you're thirsty. I think that's the best way. The only tricky part to that is if you drink other things besides water, like if you drink soda or if you drink coffee or even tea, sometimes you don't feel thirsty because you're drinking other things, and it can affect your thirst mechanism. And so you don't always know if you're needing water or not, unless you're only drinking water. And then sometimes if you're only drinking water, your body's going to signal you and tell you when you need to drink water. So, think about like coffee, for example. Like many people like coffee. I've been on and off, coffee, and you feel great and you have tons of energy and you feel good when you have coffee. You're not necessarily thinking about drinking water. So over time, that's going to have a negative effect. So just keep that in mind. So no, drinking coffee does not count as drinking water. For those who are curious, right? Coffee is actually a diuretic. it causes water loss, it causes mineral loss. So over time, you're gonna have a negative net effect with coffee. So always drink purified quality water. Water filters are fine. All filters fail over time. Distilled is your only source of consistently clean water in a modern world. If you have access to a natural spring or mountain water, you're blessed beyond blessed. Use it. So it's pretty rare, but I have talked to people who live in areas where they actually have natural spring water coming up out of the spring. I experienced this a couple years ago. How long ago was that? Probably at least 4 years ago. I was with my family and we went to Colorado and we went hiking at a place called Maroon Bells in Colorado. And we did this hike up and there was these like crystal clear ponds, right? And we're hiking up. We go around to the backside of this pond and there is water coming up out of the ground right there. So do you think we drink that water? Absolutely. If I'm in the mountains at 10,000 feet and there's water coming out of the ground and there's no city or businesses or industry around, like that was the water God gave us that we're supposed to be drinking. And so, yeah, it's amazing how fresh and clean that water felt. But water's not water. That water is not the same as the water at Longview Lake, right? I wouldn't drink that water on purpose. Like if you go swimming, you might get a little bit, but sometimes people go swimming and they get sick, right? In lakes. So yeah, fresh mountain spring water would definitely be a blessing for those. But for most of us and people living in cities and people who don't have access to that type of water, we have a water machine here where we filter the water. It's got a carbon filter on it. It actually has a separate fluoride filter. And the water is structured, and the water is negatively ionized, and the water is alkaline. And that's mainly the water we drink. But we also have a distiller, which I just brought this to show you. It's just one example, but this is a water distiller. And this is called the Mega Home Distiller. And a lot of people do this. It's pretty simple because you literally just pour water in it, push a button, and you make distilled water. Okay, so distilled water is the cleanest form of water you can possibly drink. And I've gone back and forth, of course, being in this field for 15 years. Of course, I've had 100 conversations about water and read articles and tried different things myself. And I'll tell you why I've landed on distilled water. And again, not just spring water would be better, living in Colorado in the mountains at 10,000 feet would be better. Like those would be the ideal scenarios, but few of us have that luxury, right? So the reason I landed on distilled water is a couple of things. One is it's the only way to absolutely 100% guarantee every toxin is filtered out of your water, period. You can have a filter that claims 99.9% toxin removal, and that might be true for how long, right? Every filter is going to filter less over time. And you don't know when that time is. You don't know if that filter is good for 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months, 1 year, how much, there's just no way to really know. So obviously, when the sake of cost and budget, we're doing our best, right? And even if you get an RO system or something like that, great, like it's better than nothing. But those can be notorious for mold building up in there if you don't check them. So if you have a filter of any kind, you really need to replace it regularly. But distilled water is the only way to guarantee that water is 100% pure. Number two, distilled water is the only way to completely remove radioactive elements from the water. No carbon-based filter removes uranium or radiation from it. So you have to distill the water to remove radioactive elements. So we may or may not have that problem. You don't necessarily know. I mean, like I said, California, New York, and the radium belt in Illinois, Wisconsin definitely has that problem. But the rest of us is kind of hit and miss. I actually had a gal come to me who was really sick, really tired, and I lab tested her, and her uranium was, I think it was 17 times the high level. And her father, she remembers this, the town she grew up in had a nuclear power plant, and her father worked at the plant. Now, I'm not saying she got it from her father, I don't know, but it probably was in the water if they have a nuclear power plant in their little town. And she was 17 times the toxic level of uranium. So obviously, exposure. So distilled water will get the radioactive elements out. And then people always ask about minerals. Are you in danger of drinking distilled water? There's no proof, and I don't believe it to be true. I don't believe if you drink distilled water, it's somehow going to make you mineral deficient or cause a bunch of problems. We should be getting minerals through our food, fruits and vegetables, and animal protein has tons of minerals in it. We should be getting minerals through supplementation, like taking electrolytes and basic things like that. And so I believe distilled water actually works great for hydration because the water's empty. It's immediately going to be drawn to something to hydrate. So distilled water, I think, is clean and great for hydration. Your body's going to need to find salt. So for your body to absorb that, it's going to need to find salt. So I just wanted to mention that. One of the biggest reasons people are dehydrated is they don't get enough salt. And that's another thing that people find confusing or hard to understand because everybody hears salt's bad for them, right? So I brought a couple of things just to show you an example. These are Himalayan salt stones. There's little instructions on the back, but these are stones you put in water. So you can get distilled water, like a quart of distilled water, put these stones in it, let it sit for 24 hours, and after 24 hours, you have a saturated saltwater brine. So once you have that salt water, then what you can do when you wake up in the morning is you can get a cup of water, cold water, warm water, room temperature, whatever. Add that. Warm water's best, but you can just add a teaspoon or a tablespoon of this and drink it first thing in the morning. And it's like, that's the best thing you can do for hydration. Clean water and salt is the best way to get hydrated. You cannot get a drop of water into any cell of your body without salt. That's how the body gets water into the cells and into the tissues is through salt. So for all of you out there that are craving salt, maybe there's a reason you crave salt. But I will say the best way to get salt is not through salting your food, although I salt my food because I like the taste of salt. But it's not the best way. The best way is to get salt through your water. Because if you were drinking water out of that spring in Colorado, it would naturally contain salt. Salt is a normal, natural mineral found in the earth. It would also have magnesium. It would have all those minerals in it. So a couple things you could do if you have distilled water is you can put a tablespoon or more of this once you make up what they call the soul water, S-O-L-E, soul or sole, people say it differently. But you could put like at least a tablespoon of that in a gallon of distilled water. Or, I like this even better, this is the Biocean minerals. You could put a tablespoon of this in a gallon of water. And it's actually going to structure the water and help you get hydrated. Okay, so this Biocean, I want to mention this because this is ocean water right here. We live in a world now where you have to buy ocean water in a bottle. That's the world we live in. But this is off the coast of France in a really pure source out of the ocean. And they actually harvest it specifically because of the cleanliness of the water and the mineral content in it. So we know we can't drink ocean water, right, because of the salt. And this is what's fascinating. When I learned about this and how much it's been studied, it's pretty mind-blowing. But when they evaporate the sodium out of this, it's the exact same mineral composition is human plasma and lymphatic system fluid. And they actually used ocean water. This is documented. You could look it up. They actually used ocean water in blood transfusions during World War II when they ran out of blood. And it worked. And they'd done experiments with this in dogs and all kinds of other animals where they transfused ocean water, and it basically worked as a substitute for blood. That's fascinating to me. I put most everybody I work with on the ocean minerals because it's kind of like getting a blood transfusion, right? Very well researched. The company is called Quinton, Quinton, based off a guy's name who kind of like researched all this. But he did tons of studies on women and specifically on infertility, and had women who were struggling with infertility drink this water and they would be fertile and they would have children. And this is also recommended in other countries. It's big in Canada. That's where I get it from. But after a woman has a baby, they'll have a woman drink an entire bottle of this in a week to completely rebuild and restore her blood after all the fluid and the mineral and the blood loss after having a baby. So really cool, like really, really cool stuff. So I'm a big fan of the ocean minerals adding to your water, or, if you really need the salt. So for example, if you're active, you're sweating, you're running, you're doing a lot of sports, of course. But the other thing is sauna. I recommend sauna a lot, far infrared sauna and sweating and sweat therapy to people. So if you're going to be in the sun and you're going to be sweating, you should be taking electrolyte minerals, or you can specifically do the salt, because the salt's the most important piece for hydration. So cool. All right. Drink room temperature or warm water when you wake up. This says with a tablespoon of lemon juice, but again, with a little bit of salt. Can be amazing for the adrenals, like if people hear about adrenal fatigue, adrenal weakness. I remember when my wife first started doing the Sole water in the morning with warm water, she literally felt like it was like a light bulb, like somebody flipped a switch, because there's so much energy in water and salt and the electrical conductivity of the body, the nervous system, and all that, the communication systems. So you need a spark for that. And the main spark for that in the body is salt and other minerals. So let's see, what else? Get a shower filter, reduce EMF exposure, take electrolytes every day. You can see magnesium doesn't work in the body without enough water. Oh, there it says, and water cannot, quote unquote, charge your battery unless minerals are in place. See, that was perfect timing. I didn't even realize that was in there. So yeah, that really is the biggest way to charge your battery as far as your electrical system is sunshine, water, and minerals. That's how the electrical system of the body works. Light, water, minerals. Light, water, minerals. Light, water, minerals. That is what's going to turn on the electrical system of the body. Avoid dehydration drinks, especially caffeine. Caffeine will always cause a net loss in overall hydration. You urinate out more than you drink when you use caffeine, and it depletes you of minerals over time. So we talked about that. We talked about the distilled water. I give some examples of things you can add to your water. The perfect amino electrolytes by Body Health. I recommended for years and years. I love those because it has the 8 essential amino acids and it has the electrolyte minerals in it. Recently, at the bottom of the list, you see Jigsaw. I've really been recommending Jigsaw a lot. I brought that company's products in specifically for the minerals, specifically for the electrolytes. And they have a one that's heavy potassium based. It's called Pickleball. It's kind of a funny name they gave it. I think they're going to change the name, but it's called Pickleball right now. And I think they're going to change the name to like potassium electrolytes, because I think people are like, why is it called Pickleball? I mean, I love pickleball, but it's kind of a weird name. But the reason is because that one's very high in potassium. So for you to be hydrated, And for water to work properly in the body, as far as fluid exchange in the body, is you have to have those 4 electrolytes. And we've kind of heard that. But really what that is that's nutrients and water in and toxins out. Doesn't happen at the cellular level without salt, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. So in other words, the body will not work right without the proper mineral balance. The Lord God formed man out of dust of the earth, Genesis 2:7, and those minerals must be in the body and not chronically deficient, which so many of us are chronically deficient in minerals. And that's why you hear people talk about magnesium, 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 magnesium. So it's true, everybody needs magnesium, but people are also often deficient in potassium and salt and calcium, and we need all those electrolyte minerals. So I really think everybody can benefit from electrolytes and or ocean minerals. I think those are awesome. Double helix water, I won't get too much into that, but that's like structured water. There's a whole book called The Fourth Phase of Water that's pretty fascinating. But it's it holds a negative charge. And so what that's going to do is that's going to basically help the body detox. The lymphatic system in the blood detox because of that negative charge is going to remove the positively charged ions, which a lot of toxins are positively charged. It's going to help detox the body. So that's really detox water. It's a really fascinating story about the double helix water. Some guy, here's kind of the story. I don't know if I'll get this exactly right, but it was really interesting. Some guy had discovered this water, created it, wrote a book about it. A guy who had some serious cancer put these in his water, drank the water, and completely healed and reversed his cancer. And this guy was rich. He was like a multi-millionaire. And he was so amazed, I guess would be the word, thrilled that this water healed his cancer, that he funded a multi-million-dollar research facility where they create this water now. And it's here in Missouri. It's only like an hour from here, their facility. I've never been there. They've invited me to come check it out. I've never done it. But anyway, that's pretty fascinating, the double helix water. I like the humic and fulvic minerals. Those are like basically plant minerals. So humic and fulvic minerals are found in plants. You can just get them in concentrated amounts. They're going to give you trace minerals. They're not going to have a lot of electrolytes in it, but the main thing humic minerals are well known for is detoxifying the gut. So it actually binds herbicides and pesticides, and it's going to pull some of those toxins out of the intestinal tract. I mentioned the biotin minerals. There's a 0.9, there's a 3.5. The 3.5 just has a 4 times higher concentration of sodium, but not everybody necessarily needs the sodium. So a lot of people I just keep on the 0.9. I might put them on the 3.5 if they're sweating a lot. So again, they're doing the sauna consistently, they're exercising a ton, something like that. You should do the 3.5, but if not, I think the 0.9 is perfect. Oh, I didn't mention this, but the mineral that's highest in the ocean minerals, the biotin minerals, what's most concentrated in this product once they evaporate out the sodium is magnesium chloride. So next to salt, the most abundant mineral in ocean water is magnesium chloride, which again, everybody needs magnesium. So I forgot to mention that, so I mentioned that. Okay, I want to end with talking about fasting a little bit because I'm a big fan of fasting. And so this is kind of along the subject of water, but kind of a little twist on it. And so like I said, maybe you'll learn something today you haven't heard before. Dr. Morse talks a lot about this. If you've ever listened to Dr. Morse, he's the guy who thinks everybody should eat all fruit and we're all frugivores, which I don't necessarily agree with. But if you go back to like the Garden of Eden, you could kind of make an argument for it, I guess, right? Like it was maybe God's original intention. Like I totally get it. But yeah, so I had mentioned earlier the kidneys and the importance of the kidneys. And the reality is we all have a lot of toxic wastes in our body. And a lot of the wastes and the toxins in our body are in our fluid systems. So this is what fasting does. I'm going to talk about water fasting, and then here's the twist on the plot tonight. We're going to do a whole class on water, and then I'm going to talk about how amazing it is to do dry fasting where you don't drink water for an entire day, right? So there's a twist on it, right, that you maybe haven't heard. But if you drink water only for 3 days, you turn on something called autophagy, okay, where the body starts to consume all its old toxic poisons and waste. So anything in the body that's a toxin, that's a waste, that's a sick, dead, dying, diseased cell, the body consumes it for energy when there's no sugar to consume. The body will start consuming toxins and waste, kind of like a furnace, right? So that happens through water fasting, and so does apoptosis, which is cancer cell death. Again, within 3 days of water fasting, the body will start to do the same thing, dissolve, burn up, eliminate any cancer cell, because the body knows that a cancer cell is a toxic waste cell, and it's going to burn that up before it would ever burn up a healthy cell, healthy tissue, healthy muscle, anything like that. So a lot of people think water fasting is dangerous because you're going to lose all your muscles and all that stuff, but it takes a long, long time on water for your body to be like, oh, I'm going to dissolve that muscle. Like there's plenty of other toxins that it's going to dissolve first. So water fasting, I think, is extremely powerful. So like we're talking about water. So what if you did only water, maybe with minerals or something like that, for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days? You don't know until you try it. Okay, I can tell you some really cool stories of people fasting. I had a gal, just one cool story. I had a gal in her 70s on 17 medications, diabetic, and we did a whole bunch of things, but one of the things she did is every Friday she water fasted. Every Friday she water fasted for months. Guess how many meds she's on right now? 0. Now, I'm not saying it was just the water fasting, but it helped. People get better faster when they give the body a break and allow the body to clean itself up. So the ultimate way to clean up the body is dry fasting. No food, no water. Doesn't that sound fun? Don't you guys always just want to try it? Yeah. Have you done it yet, Karen? You haven't done it? Okay. So dry fasting, here's the cool thing about dry fasting, okay? We know we need water. We know the body's a fluid system. We know everything works based off of water. But if we believe that there's old, toxic sewage water in our body, right? If that's true, if you actually do no water, it forces the body to go find water, pull it into the kidneys, filter and clean it, eliminate the waste, and use the water that it finds to hydrate the body. So the best way to actually clean up our wastewater systems of our body, like our lymphatic system, or to clean up our liver or kidneys or any organ, is actually through short periods of dry fasting. Because the body's going to pull up and recycle old wastewater because it's forced to go find water. Does that make sense? A lot of the research on dry fasting comes out of Russia, and it's fascinating. People in Russia would dry fast up to 11 days. No food, no water. Okay. Biblically, how long do people dry fast? Paul, when he was blind, Esther fast. How long were those fasts? 3 days. 3 days. 3 days, no food, no water. So people have done this before. This isn't totally cuckoo, right? Now, obviously, they did it for spiritual reasons. They were like asking God to intervene, right? But there actually are amazing health benefits. So I'll tell you another cool story. There was a gal who had excruciating tooth pain. And it was so bad that I was like, if you really want the pain to go away, you should try dry fast for 1 day. And so she did it. And so the easiest way to dry fast, if you ever want to try it, is stop consuming food or drink at 6 p.m., dry fast the next day, no food or water, go to sleep, get up the next morning. You just did a 36-hour dry fast, and you only had to do no food or water for 1 day. So she did that. Her tooth pain completely disappeared. And I said, and I knew she had some health issues. And so I was like, why don't you break the fast? It's a true story. Why don't you break the fast with a garlic enema? You guys know what an enema is. You can do a garlic enema where you press fresh garlic into water, boil it a little bit, strain it off, put it into the enema bucket. So the only water she had ever touched in 36 hours, she did an enema. She put it in her backside with garlic and passed a toilet bowl full of tapeworms this long. Because the parasites were looking for water too, and guess what they found? Garlic, which is poisonous to parasites. So I've been doing this 15 years. I got stories, all right? I got stories. So anyway, I just thought I'd end with that just because it's kind of fascinating. Like, I'll just throw in a 1-day dry fast once in a while just because I know it's good for me. And, you know, it's 1 day. Like, we'll survive, right? So if you can throw in a 3-day water fast once a month or once in a while, or a 1-day dry fast once in a while, it's only going to be beneficial. So hopefully that was helpful on some tips with hydration, the importance of distilled water, the reality that there's toxins and poisons in our water, even if you think your well water's clean, things you can add to your water. Minerals are equally important because you can't get hydrated and things in the body don't work without the minerals. So everybody can benefit from all those basic electrolyte minerals. So I will end there, and I will answer any questions. And Joshua, if there's any questions online, let me know.
Yeah, we got a few.
Okay.
I can start with, someone said chlorine dioxide. They want to know your thoughts on that.
Chlorine dioxide, yeah, big fan. So we have like 2,500 products in our store, and chlorine dioxide has been our #1 selling product for 5 years. Because of what? COVID. The infamous COVID. So I'm a big fan of chlorine dioxide. People know about chlorine dioxide. It's a gas that you combine these drops and it creates this sulfurous gas. And I'm a big fan because what it does is it works in the body to clear out candida, yeast, fungus, parasites, mold. It basically works against any kind of infectious disease organism. There's a gal named Carrie Rivera who wrote an entire book on healing autism. And the main thing she saw reverse autism in children was chlorine dioxide because it killed fungus. I've actually seen the same thing. Almost every autistic kid I've seen has a high infectious disease load and lots of fungus, usually in their intestinal tract. So the chlorine dioxide is good for cleaning that up. So I don't think you got to go crazy because it can make you nauseous and sick and throw up, and that's no fun. So I usually tell people if you want to do chlorine dioxide, just do 3-4 drops in water once or twice a day and just kind of do it as like a maintenance thing. And it's just kind of work over time. You don't have to go extreme with it because it definitely can make people nauseous. So anything else?
I definitely have more, but we can just.
Karen?
Oh, so could it be possible one of the reasons you crave water would be if your body is so full of parasites? Because you just said parasites were taking your water.
Right.
Could that be?
Yeah, and actually, like you mentioned, like craving water, but also like people who are chronically dry eyes, chronically dry, like people even like don't salivate or their tear ducts seem to kind of dry up, if you've ever heard of that. I believe it's they have infectious disease. So if you have a lot of candida, yeast, fungus, parasites in your body, that's going to absorb a lot of your water. What does mold live on? Water. So if you have infectious disease in your body, it's going to suck up your water. So the answer isn't necessarily just to keep pounding more water. You probably got to clear some of that infection out of there. So it's a good point. What else you got, Joshua?
What's the difference between putting salt in your water versus electrolytes?
So salt is an electrolyte. So the question is, what's the difference between putting salt in your water versus electrolytes? So salt is an electrolyte. I would say just salt is the most important if you know you have adrenal issues, because salt's very important for adrenal function. If you are sweating a lot because of sports or physical activity or sweating in a sauna, you might need more salt. For the average person who's just doing average things, I would take just an electrolyte formula. I like the Jigsaw one, or like I mentioned, the Perfect Amino Electrolytes. Just a good electrolyte formula that has magnesium, sodium, potassium, calcium, all the electrolytes.
Can ocean minerals be added to filtered water too, or only distilled?
Oh, totally can be added to any water. Yeah, filtered water is great. Yeah, I just mentioned distilled because distilled does take all the minerals out. Reverse osmosis takes all the minerals out for the most part. And so, but yeah, if you just have like a Berkey filter or something like that, doesn't necessarily take all the minerals out, you absolutely can still add electrolytes or ocean mineral to that water because you'll still get the benefits of those minerals.
Can you use Celtic salt?
Celtic salt, absolutely. Yep. This is the Himalayan pink salt. But yeah, we have Celtic sea salt out here. There's the fleur de sel, like French sea salt. There's all kinds of, as long as it's a good natural sea salt, you can use any of those. I'm not favoring Himalayan salt by any means. I think any kind of natural salt is great. Yes.
So after you get out of the sauna and you've sweated a lot, say you don't have the soul water, but you have Himalayan salt, can you just sprinkle some of that in your water?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. You can just put a little salt in water and that works too.
Much to do that on top of also taking the ocean?
No, not at all. The ocean minerals evaporates most of the sodium out. There's some in there. There's a little bit in there, but it's mainly magnesium chloride. Yeah. Yes.
If you're prone to migraine headaches, if you're not hydrated, taking electrolytes,
Right.
is it best if you want to do a fast or a dry fast? Is it best to be like making sure that your electrolytes and everything are,
Yes.
That you're primed to do this fast?
Yes. I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah. She says if you're prone to headaches or migraines and you're thinking about doing a fast, would it be better to prepare first? And yeah, I would say like get on electrolytes. I would be doing lots of magnesium 1, potassium 2. And there's so many reasons people have migraines, right? Okay. But irregardless of what's causing the migraines, getting large amounts of magnesium and electrolytes will help, if not resolve it. Again, it depends on what's causing it. But yeah, if you're going to do a water fast or a dry fast, it would definitely behoove you to be doing lots of minerals for at least a good month, right? Before attempting something like that. Because if somebody's nutrient deficient and they're toxic and they jump right into a dry fast, that's going to be a bad day, potentially. So yeah, very good point that it's definitely good to prepare for these things. Yeah.
Would you advise dry fasting or water fasting while nursing?
So I would say, yeah, 100% no on the dry fasting. That's going to be oh, sorry. So the question is, would you recommend water fasting or dry fasting while nursing? Definitely not dry fasting, because obviously that could affect milk supply. Water fasting, I would say maybe not like a water fast, but you could totally like drink water and eat fruits and vegetables and just get super hydrated and keep the diet really light. And that's kind of a way of fasting. It's almost like an even stricter version of like a Daniel fast, right? Just eating lots of fruits and vegetables. So maybe if you're nursing, yeah, I would say definitely not extreme fasting, but I would say like fruits and vegetables, lots of minerals, lots of water, lots of hydration, lots of natural sugars. I think that could work.
Last question, what can prevent water retention in the ankles?
So I believe the main reason for water retention in the ankles is a problem in the fluid system. So kidneys, lymphatic system. The fastest way to start to resolve that is going to be dry fasting, right? So if there's water retention in the system, there's wastewater stuck and trapped. So this is an example where if you could throw in 1 day a week of dry fasting, you're going to start to pull all of that trapped fluid out of your tissues. I also would speak on sugar, grains, and carbs. Most fluid retention is water weight from excessive amounts of sugars and carbs in the body. And so diet-wise, you'd want to cut out grains, sugars, and starches, eat animal protein, fruits, and vegetables. So make that diet change, and then throw in a water fast, or even better, a dry fast, even if it's just 1 day a week or 1 day every 2 weeks, to start to pull that old fluid out. And then I'd really, really support that person's kidneys. Do like our kidney detox tea or something like that to help them move this fluid waste out of their body. Because what does a medical doctor do? They give them diuretics, right, to help them push fluids out. So how do you get the fluids out naturally? It's through those things we just talked about. Good? Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.